بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. طيب. We'll continue today min Hidayat Surah Al-Fatihah, some of the benefits and guidance found in Al-Fatihah, Surah Al-Fatihah. In this chapter, التحذير من الخروج عن صراط المستقيم, a warning against straying from the straight path, going away from the straight path, a warning against going away from the straight path. By Sheikh Abdul Razak Al-Badr. In this chapter, it relates to another chapter which had to do with the deception of the shaitan and how the shaitan tries to how the shaitan tries to deceive us in order to take us away from the straight path. So, قال حفظه الله ينبغي أن يعلم أن الشيطان لا يزال بالعبد حريصا على إخراجه من صراط الله المستقيم بإحدى طريقين. That we have to all remember that the shaitan tries to come and he's diligent and always working to take a person away from the straight path by one or two ways. Either two ways that he tries to do it. The first way, tariq al-shubha, the path of doubts. The path of doubts. The second one, tariq al-shahwa, or the path of lust and desires. Either through doubts, a person is doubtful regarding what is the truth, right? Or through desires. A person following their own desires, which leads to the disobedience of Allah Jalla wa Ala. These are the two issues discussed in this chapter. He says, فَالشُّبْهَةِ يَصِلُ مِنْ خِلَالِهَا الْإِنسَانِ إِلَى الْحَدَثِ فِي الدِّينِ وَالْبِدْعِ. The tariq of the road of doubts, it leads to a person inventing something new in the religion, bid'ah, innovation. Can lead to innovation. In the shahwa, the path of desires, where a person follows their desires, they may leave off the nas, leave off the text, they leave off the guidance found in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they end up following their desires, what they feel like was comfortable for them, even if it goes against the guidance found in the Quran and the Sunnah. We're talking about something that's going against the guidance in the Quran, or going against the guidance we find in the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the person does it following their desires. He says, this road يصل من خلالها إلى ارتكاب المعاصي والمحرمات. This one leads to a person disobeying Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So either one is going to lead a person to mukhalafa fi din, going against something religiously, meaning the person, as we say, to use the ibadah, if we say the person they're deening, they're not upon disobedience, they're upon obedience to Allah Jalla wa Ala. But the tariq al-shubha, like I said, the tariq al-shubha doubts may lead them to going against the guidance found in the Quran and Sunnah. Innovation, bid'ah. The other one, tariq al-shubha, that leads a person to disobedience in general. So one is a little more specific than the other. He says for shaitan, his job is to keep a person and plan and plot and see which one of these two paths is the best for this person. Right? Which way should I attack this person as the shaitan? Which way should he attack? أي طريق أقرب إلى الخروج عنده. For this person, every person might be different. One person, he may use doubts. The other person, he may use the desire, depending on which one the person is closer to, as he's going to get into. Tayyib. So from those two, he'll look and he'll see which road is the best to in his opinion, to the shaitan. He looks at a person, as we know, he sits and he waits in the path of the people, all of us, right? And he looks and he says, okay, which one is better to attack him or her? From which way? Through doubts or through desires? He says, كما قال بعض السلف, as some of the Salaf would say, إن الشيطان الشام القلوب بمعنى أنه ينظر إلى ما يميل إليه الإنسان. As some of the Salaf would say, a statement that means the shaitan, he looks to see what is this person's weakness. And then he comes in through that crack. What does he lean more towards? What does she lean more towards? All right? Which is, as they say, clever. Right? Clever. He's an enemy. And any enemy, if he's a good enemy, right, he does his homework. Right? If he's good, if he's sharp, we say, he did his homework. Or she did her homework, if they're good. But as we know, some people are sloppy. Right? They sloppy, so he was sloppy, and we can say this, I got the drop on him already. All right? When I say that, so the people understand, right? It came sloppy, so you saw him coming. But if he's good, the enemy is good, you never see him coming. And then we say he had to drop on me. Tayyib, he says that, they would say that the shaitan looks and he looks at a person to see where's the crack, what do they lean towards more. He says, فَإِذَا وَجَدَ فِيهِ تَمَسُّكًا بِالدِّينِ وَحِرْصًا عَلَيْهِ اجْتَهَدَ فِي إِخْرَاجِهِ مِنَ الدِّينِ مِنْ جِهَةِ الشُّبْهَةِ. If he finds a person is religious, they're religious, right? So the path of disobedience might not work with this person. You with me? They're religious people. They're practicing Islam. So just to come and try to make them fall into some disobedience might not be the easiest way to get them to disobey Allah. Right? So the shaitan, if he finds that the person is religious, he says, then اجتهد في إخراجه. Then he strives hard in taking him from the straight path, taking him off the deen by way of doubts, doubtful matters. And this happens all the time. And a lot of it comes from, a lot of times, in the situation we're dealing with, reading any and everything from anybody. Anything that somebody puts out, that we give attention to it. When it may not be worthy of reading. It may be a doubt in that, let's just say, article, whatever it might be. There might be some ignorance in that a person is not equipped to fight off. So they get the doubt, they read the doubt that they never had before, it was never a problem. They read that article, now it's a problem, they can't figure out how to get to the bottom of it. And it shakes people. And it can shake them, it can shake their iman, it can shake their faith if they're not properly equipped. And proper equipped doesn't mean you have to be a scholar or student of knowledge, but at least you need to know the basics, the foundation, the usul. As Sheikh Muhammad al-Harbi Hafidhullah used to tell us, if you teach the people the usul, then they'll know. If you teach them the foundations, they'll know what goes against it. Generally, it'll be easy to spot. Instead of teaching people a bunch of different issues, right? A bunch of different issues, but there's no asl. There's nothing to grab onto really as a foundation. Then the information is always scattered. There's a bunch of information you have, but it's scattered. And when something is scattered like that, it's always holes in it, right? It's always holes in it. So he said if he finds that they're religious, he try to take them off the path through doubtful matters. He says, فَيَبْدَأُ يُشَدِّدُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. So the person starts to, for example, they go too hard on themselves, right? Too hard, overboard in critiquing their own selves. وَيُشَدِّدُ عَلَى غَيْرِهِ. And also, they go overboard on being too harsh on other people. إِلَى أَنْ يَخْرُجَ عَنْ صِرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. Until they go against and they leave the straight path. This is for the one who is religious. He'll go through doubt, right? Different issues, different doubtful matters and things like that. He says if the person, but the person who has weak iman, they might not be that strong. Their religion might not be that strong. فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَأْتِيهِ مِنْ جِهَةِ الشَّهْوَاتِ. The shaitan goes to this person by way of desires, because that's what they lean more towards, following their desires and more than likely disobedience, right? They're not as strong in their religion as the other person. So this is the perfect crack for the shaitan to enter and take this person away from the straight path. الخروج عن صراط مستقيم إما عن الشبهة أو إما عن الشهوة. So either it's from doubt or desires. طيب. Now he's going to go in the difference. The difference. طيب. He says وإذا كان الخروج عن الشبهة فهذا فساد في العلم. If it has to do with the path of doubtful things, right? So this is a problem in a person's knowledge. Their knowledge. It's a problem when it comes to ilm, knowledge. Which goes back to another thing, a basic principle that we have to know. The Muslim should know the foundational information. Basic things, like that book, Ad-Durus al-Muhimma li'amat al-Ummah, that Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah, wrote. General lessons for every Muslim, essential lessons for every Muslim. The information in that book is not high-level information. It's basic understanding of Al-Fatihah and the short surahs from Juz Amma up to Zalzala. Short surahs, not even the whole Juz Amma, only a portion of Juz Amma. That the Muslim should understand those surahs. The surahs should be memorized. They should understand them. And then the basic, the pillars of Islam. Basic, the pillars of Islam, the pillars of Iman. Basic stuff. There's nothing in there that's like very critical, detailed information that you need like years and years of study. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? Then he goes into the basics of the salat, the conditions of wudu, the conditions of the salat, the arkan of salat. This is stuff that all of the Muslims should know. Basic. Knowing this type of information protects us a lot of times from doubtful things. It protects us from doubtful things. Because a lot of times we doubt things because we don't know. Right? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then I came to the salat, the imam was in ruku'. Right? So when I went to make the takbir, I just went straight into ruku'. I didn't make 2 takbirats. I said Allahu Akbar, I went straight into the court. Was I supposed to make 2 takbirats? Doubt, shak. I don't know. Right? Basic stuff. Not that every issue, some issues may have detail, but a lot of times the issues are, I don't know, is that right? It's after the salat now. Right? Now it's after the salat, it's doubt. I don't even know if I did that right. Where those situations, if you already know, you're thinking about them as you approach the situation. Say, they in ruku', tayyib, I got 2 options. I gotta do this or this. I'll make sure I do this or that. Here, right? It's like a formula. You gotta know what's going on. You gotta be paying attention. Whereas if you don't know, you just come and you do something, then you try to figure it out later, right? Sometimes we're in a situation where there's nobody in and nobody else around to ask. I don't know if I'm gonna just do it like this. This is what I know, I'm gonna do it like this, right? The first thing he says, fasad al-amal, the shubha comes, a person is able to trick a person through doubt based on a lack of knowledge. If I don't know, and you sound like you know what you're talking about, you know, generally it sounded like you knew what he was talking about, right? A person can sound like they know what they're talking about. Doesn't necessitate that they're right. He says, وَإِذَا كَانَ عَنْ شَهْوَةٍ فَهَذَا فَسَادٌ فِي الْعَمَلِ. And if it's by way of the desires, then this is a problem in the actions, a person's actions, following their desires. And Allah, the deen of Islam, came to correct the straight path has to do with knowledge and action. Knowledge and action. Not that we have one and we don't have the other, but that we have both. that we ask Allah for guidance in both of these situations. Actions and knowledge. That actions and knowledge. And knowledge is before actions. So that knowledge is beneficial. Beneficial knowledge and actions. As Allah said in Surah At-Tawbah, هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق. He is the one who sent his messenger with, Allah said two things in the ayah. Al-Huda, guidance, ودين الحق, and the religion of truth. And he says, as the ulama tafsir say, Al-Huda, guidance here means Al-Ilm Nafi', that he sent the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam with beneficial knowledge, and the Deen al-Haq meaning righteous actions, wal-amal as-salih. So it's not just that we have the information, we have the knowledge, but we don't use it. Or the opposite, that we don't have knowledge and we just doing what we think is the right thing to do. But it has to be both. The straight path, Sirat al-Mustaqim, is both. Having knowledge, beneficial knowledge, and acting on that knowledge. And when one is missing, then it's inconsistent and it's unbalanced, it's not balanced. And that's not considered the straight path, as Allah mentioned in the end of Surah Al-Fatihah. Right? One group of people, they had knowledge and they didn't implement the knowledge. And the other group of people, they acted without knowledge. So either way, both groups were considered astray, not praiseworthy, not on the straight path. Right? The straight path consists of having knowledge of it and implementing the knowledge, doing both things. He says if these two things are actualized, and a person is on the straight path. And this is why the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam قد كان عليه الصلاة والسلام يقول إذا صلى الصبح حين يسلم اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. The hadith in Ibn Majah, where the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام, he would say after Salatul Fajr, after he made the taslim, after he salamed out, he would make the dua, oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge. That's the dua. Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an. Oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge and rizqan tayyiban, good provisions, and actions that are accepted. Actions that are accepted. Not just a bunch of actions that we might be doing wrong. The hadith says, وَعَمَلًا مُتَقَبَّلًا. And in another narration it says, وَعَمَلَ الصَّالِحِ. It says righteous actions, and the righteous actions are the actions that are accepted. And this is the dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to make after Fajr. After he made the taslim, he would ask Allah for beneficial knowledge. It's from the Sunnah. Ask Allah for beneficial knowledge and righteous actions, and actions that are accepted. That we don't want to be people that have a bunch of information and then we held accountable Yom Qiyamah for not using it. Assalamu alaikum. Or the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the man, the three people who will be brought in question before Allah Yom Qiyamah. The person who learned and they didn't implement it, but they learned so that the people could say that they were knowledgeable. Or they read the Quran so that the people could say that they were nice reciters of the Quran, and then they would be thrown in the hellfire on their faces. May Allah protect us. I mean, so the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith, he would make dua for one, beneficial knowledge. And also in the hadith comes actions that are accepted. And in order for actions to be accepted, how many conditions for actions to be accepted? How many conditions for actions to be accepted? 2. Huh? Again? So in order for actions to be accepted, it has to be, what does that mean, from knowledge? What does that mean? Anybody in here? Huh? I gotta be from the Quran and Sunnah. Sorry? So as long as a person do an action from Quran and Sunnah, it's accepted.
No, that's the first part.
Oh, that's the first one. Tayyib, what's the second part? You did it. You did the action. You did the action based on Quran and Sunnah, based on according to the Sunnah of the Prophet. So as long as it's done according to the Sunnah, the action is accepted. Tayyib? Huh? Stop. As long as a person does an action according to the way the Prophet ﷺ taught us,
The intention correct, right?
the intention, then what? Niyyah. The niyyah has to be what? Mukhlis, ikhlas. The intention is for Allah only. Not that they did the action, they did it according to the Sunnah, but they only did it according to the Sunnah because they saw people watching them. Ar-Riyah. Right? Jade. That they have to make sure, number one, that they're being sincere. And number two, that they do the action according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Like, how do we know, though, that these are conditions for actions? What's the dalil?
The hadith where it says you get every slave gets what he intends for.
Jade. Ikhlas, and then a'malu bin niyat. All actions are by intentions. Every person will get what they intended. If a person is sincere, then they'll be rewarded for their sincerity. If a person is doing it to be seen by people, then the people will see him and they'll call him whatever he was trying to get them to call him. Right? If he wanted to, whatever he's trying to do, as it comes in the other hadith, where we said to him, no, you read the Quran so that people could say that you're a qari. وَقَدْ قِيلَ. You read the Quran so that people could say that you are a good reciter, and that's what they said. It says in the hadith, and that's what they said. They said you were a good reciter. وَقَدْ قِيلَ. And then they'll be dragged and thrown to the hellfire. Tayyib. The dalil for now, the actions have to be done by the Sunnah or they're not accepted. And the action has to be done by according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, or it's not accepted. There has to be some dalil, right? If we don't have dalil to say that, then what? People do anything they want to do. It has to be something that restricts us to following the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Huh? The Quran? What? That's too general. Dalil. What's the dalil? What's the proof? The proof that ikhlas, a person's, we said there's two conditions for the actions to be accepted. Okay, we said sincerity, and they have to follow the Sunnah. They have to follow the guidance of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam in doing the action. Like, how we know that? How do we know that sincerity is a condition? Based on what? Based on the hadith you mentioned. Actions are by intentions. Every person will get exactly what they intended, right? If a person, if their intention was to seek Allah's reward, when they did that, prayed that salah, when they fasted that day, their intention was seeking Allah's reward, then that's what they get. If their intention was to pray like that, so that people could say, mashallah, he's always in the first row, right? That was their intention. If that was their intention, then that's what people say, mashallah, he's always in the first row, right? You get exactly what you intended. But they might not get any reward with Allah because they didn't do the deed for Allah. They did the deed for other than Allah, for the people to say something. So that hadith proves that the action has to be sincerely done for Allah. The second condition is that the action has to be done according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. How do we know that? What dalil do we have from the religion to say, if you don't do a certain thing as the Prophet ﷺ taught us, then it's not accepted? The whole Quran?
No, not the whole Quran. Like, you get like a specific ayah.
Yeah, dalil. Somebody say, what's the hadith on it? The hadith, the exact hadith. You're not going to say, what is it? Bukhari. You can't say Bukhari. Right? You got to tell them, yeah, the hadith says this. The Quran. Like, what does the ayah say? You with me? No. That actions have to be done according to the Sunnah. And if they're not, then it's not accepted. Y'all know the hadith because it's a famous hadith. Huh? Again? What's that?
It's dealing with actions. It's dealing with the same thing like in actions and
The same hadith?
Everything's at the end. It ain't the same.
من كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله.
That hadith where he said, if you migrate for,
Yeah, but that's an explanation of the niyyah. Meaning, if a person migrated and their intention was Allah's reward, then they will get that reward. But if a person migrated to marry a woman, then they married a woman. That's what they get. But we want to know what's the dalil that if you don't do the action according to the sunnah, it's not accepted. Hadith in, you might have to do arba'in and no before the hadith. من عمل عملا ليس عليه أمرنا فهو رد. Whoever does an action that is not from our deen, then that action is rejected. Hadith Aisha radiallahu anha. Whoever does an action that is not from our affair, not from our deen, then that action is rejected. طيب. So when we ask Allah in this hadith, as the Prophet ﷺ used to do after Salat al-Fajr, Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an, right? Wa rizqan tayyiban, beneficial knowledge, a good means of income, wealth, or sustenance. And the third thing he said was, wa amalan mutaqabbalan, and actions that are accepted. Knowledge that's beneficial and actions that are accepted. Alright? Tayyib. So those conditions for the actions to be accepted, that we're sincere, a person is sincere, and that they do the action according to the guidance of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, فَالْعِلْمَ النَّافِعِ الْعِلْمَ النَّافِعِ يَهْتَدِي بِهِ الْإِنسَانِ إِلَى الصِّرَاطِ الْخَيْرِ. That beneficial knowledge is going to guide a person to the pathways and the avenues of goodness, all good, based on the ilm, which shows again the importance of knowing the basics, knowing the foundations of the different sciences, the foundations of aqidah, the foundations of hadith, the basics. Not that a person has to know on a high level, but if they choose to, they need to. But we need to be at least be able to worship Allah on a daily basis clearly. We know what we're doing. We know why we're doing it, right? So we should know the meaning of the surahs that we recite. We recite the same surahs. If we knew 3 surahs, if I only memorized 3 surahs, I need to know, I should know. And it's going to strengthen my iman, and it's going to strengthen my understanding if I understand what I'm saying. If I understand what Al-Fatihah means, and I understand what those 3 surahs mean, I have a basic understanding of those surahs, alhamdulillah. Right? Salat, the basics of the salat. You might not know every hadith around the salat, but you know, what you do know is that the Messenger ﷺ did pray like this. So I know I'm following this sunnah, which is another issue of how vast and the sunnah is. That's, sometimes we try to restrict it to what we're used to seeing. A lot of times we're used to seeing people pray a certain way, so if people don't pray the way we're used to seeing it, we think they're not praying correctly, right? When we just might not know that that's from the sunnah. That's happened to us a lot. Once we started to get further and deeper into the books, you find out that it's a lot. It's a lot. That a lot of the books that we read, a lot of times are summarized books. They're short. Nothing wrong with them, but they're short, and they're short on purpose for a reason. For the beginner should learn with the summarized short stuff first, and then the stronger they get, then they branch out to bigger issues. So if a person prays like this, they find it in a book, then they know, okay, if I pray like this, alhamdulillah, I'm practicing the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that doesn't mean that anything outside of that book is not from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everything might not be contained in that book. You got 6 books of hadith, kutub al-sitta, even more. 6 different books of hadith, the kutub al-sitta, and then those on top of those, the Musnad of Imam Ahmed, and those other books that contain hadith about praying. All I have in my house is the summarized version of Sahih al-Bukhari. The summarized version. I don't have any of the other 5 or 6 books of hadith that can and also have hadith about praying. Right? So if I'm learning from this one book, it's possible there are other hadith in the other books that I don't have in front of me. So if I see something out of the ordinary, I can't assume, because it's not in my summarized book, not even the whole book, the summarized book that is not from the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what you can say is I know there is a hadith that says you can pray like this. So at least I know I'm praying and I'm safe. I'm praying according to one of the ways that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam would pray. Do I know all of the ways? I don't know all of the ways, but I know this one based on this. Not the opposite. The opposite is, if it's not in this book, then it must not be from the Sunnah. And that's how a lot of us were when we first learned from Sheikh Al-Albani's book, rahimahullah. Sifat al-Salat al-Nabi, alayhi salatu wasalam, the Prophet's prayer described. We thought that if it wasn't in that book, if you didn't pray according to this book, that we didn't think a person was praying according to the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alright? Which is a big, big, big mistake. But as Ibn Qayyim said, al-jahlu da'un qatil. Al-jahlu da'un qatil wa shifahu amrani fi tarkibi muttafiqani. Jahl, ignorance, is a deadly poison, as he described it in that poetry. Ignorance is a deadly poison. It's deadly. We didn't know. When you don't know, sometimes you do things that you're not supposed to do. Tayyib. The beneficial knowledge leads a person to all the pathways of good. وَالْعَمَلَ الصَّالِحِ يُمْضِي بِهِ فِي طَرِيقِ الْخَيْرِ رِفْعَةً وَعُلُوًا. And that righteous actions also will guide a person on that path to be raised. Righteous actions. وَالشَّيْطَانُ يُرِيدُ خُرُوجَ الْعَبْدِ إِمَّا بِفَسَادِ عِلْمِهِ أو بِفَسَادِ عَمَلِهِ. The shaitan, it doesn't matter. He either wants a person to be misguided, either one. Whether a person leaves the path based on ignorance, knowledge, they don't have the knowledge and they leave the straight path, or they leave the straight path based on following the desires of the shaitan, it doesn't matter. The most important thing to the shaitan is what? That a person leaves the straight path. Therefore, he's trying to find the best way to pull a person away from the straight path. And everybody's situation is different. That's why everybody's situation, everybody's fitna might be different. One brother or sister might be stronger than the next, but that doesn't mean that they won't be tested. One person may know more than another person, but that doesn't mean the person with more knowledge won't be tested. Their test just may be from a different angle, right? Tayyib. He says, فإذا فسد العلم يصبح الإنسان ضالا وإذا فسد العمل يصبح الإنسان مغضوبا عليه. So if a person is tested and from the angle of knowledge, but they don't have knowledge, then they will be misguided. They will be misguided. They don't have the knowledge, so they're going to go astray. They don't know what the sunnah is, so they're going to go astray. Right? As not to say people are straight, but as people do in situations. In situations, a person, they don't know what to do, so they just do something. I ain't know what to do, I just did it like this. Right? Which is not from the guidance of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? They might they might do exactly what we're not supposed to do. But they don't know. Lack of knowledge, they end up going astray. He said, وَإِذَا فَسَدَ الْعَمَلُ يُصْبِحُ الْإِنسَانِ مَغْضُوبًا عَلَيْهِ. مَغْضُوبًا عَلَيْهِ. And if a person loses out or is from the jihad, from the angle of actions, they don't act on the knowledge, then in this case, these are people who gain the anger of Allah. That Allah is angry with these people. Why? Because they did have the knowledge, right? But they didn't act on it. Having knowledge and not acting on it. So one group, they acted with no knowledge, which led them astray. And the other group, they had the knowledge, they had the information, they knew the sunnah, knew the fahm of the salaf, knew this, knew that, all the narrations, and they didn't act on them. And they gained the anger of Allah. Allah protect us. Ameen. And this is why Allah says at the end of Surah Al-Fatihah, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِينَ. Not those who gained Allah's anger, and not those who went astray. Not those who gained Allah's anger, those who went astray. فَالْمَغْضُوبُ عَلَيْهِمْ فَسَدُوا فِي الْعَمَلِ. Those who gained Allah's anger, that their problem was with their actions. They didn't implement the knowledge. And those who abaloon, that they didn't have the knowledge, which shows the importance of both things. So no person will be safe from the anger of Allah except by being upon the straight path, which is knowledge and actions. Knowledge and actions. طيب. It says here about the path of desires. He says, وَطَرِيقُ الشَّهْوَاتِ بَابٌ خَطِيرٌ عَلَى النَّاسِ يَخْرُجُ مِنْ خِلَالِهِ كَثِيرٌ عَنْ صِرَاطِ اللَّهِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ اتِّبَاعًا لِلْهَوَىٰ. Number one, وَلِدُعَاةِ الشَّهْوَاتِ الَّذِينَ تَبَارُوا وَتَنَافَسُوا فِي صَدِّ النَّاسِ عَنِ الْخَيْرِ. The path of desires is a dangerous path that many people leave the straight path based on following their desires. He says, one, based on following your desires, number one, and two, based on following du'at al-shahwat. People who may call them meaning people who might encourage them to follow their desires. Right? Meaning, either one, a person follows their desires, or two, mathalan, they have friends, as we say, they're not on their deen. The people that they hang around on a daily basis, they're not people that are practicing the religion. Not that they might be Muslims, but they might not be practicing the deen. They might not be strong. I mean, iman may be weak. So, we all know, and if we don't, either you are affecting the people that you're around, or they're affecting you. Either you have an effect on the brothers or the sisters that you come in contact with on a daily basis. Either you rub off on them, or they rub off on you. When a person is not practicing the deen, a person is not upon obedience of Allah, they don't want to be the only one. They don't want to be the eyeball. They don't want to be the only one not obeying Allah. So what do? They may call and encourage and invite others to come disobey Allah with them. Allah protect us. I mean, it said either one, a person follow his desires, or two, du'at al-shahwat. Those people who call and encourage people to disobey Allah or to follow their desires. طيب. He says from these different ways, and he mentions this in a couple different places. He says from these different ways of a person falling into disobedience, the haram. He says many different ways. He says from عن طريق شبكة الإنترنت العنكبوتية. Different things found on the internet. That the internet could be a double-edged sword. It could be from benefit, or it could be harmful, based on what a person is looking at on the internet. What is a person searching for on the internet? It could be beneficial, and it could be harmful. It could be beneficial to a person's deen, and it could be harmful to a person's deen and to their iman. Now, at the same time, for example, now you have the internet with method and live streams. Live stream, you can see ulama live teaching classes, ulama scholars teaching classes live, right? That you might not have had 20 years ago. It's benefit. There's a lot of benefit on that internet. But at the same time, there could be a lot of harms on the internet at the same time. And he's just saying this is one of the ways. These are one of the things that may call a person to disobedience. And this is worth mentioning because this is pretty much how life is lived now. Everything is on the internet. Most of our transactions are done through the internet. Many of them. Whether it's a phone call, whether it's a text message, you might be using the internet. We're on the phone, we're on some type of device where we're using the internet. So we want to make sure and ask Allah to protect us and to guide us to make sure we're using it to our advantage and not using it so that it's a proof against us. طيب. He says, واسمع في هذا المقام متأملا متدبرا قول الله تعالى, he said, listen to this ayah, which is in Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 27. In Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 27, where Allah says, وَاللَّهُ يُرِيدُ أَن يَتُوبَ عَلَيْكُمْ. That Allah wants for you to repent, make tawbah, so He can forgive you. He says, وَيُرِيدُ الَّذِينَ يَتَّبِعُونَ الشَّهَوَاتِ أَن تَمِيلُوا مَيْلًا عَظِيمًا. And those who follow their desires, right, disobeying Allah Jalla wa Ala, they want you to, as Allah says, أَن تَمِيلُوا مَيْلًا عَظِيمًا. أَن تَمِيلُوا عَن صِرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. Those who follow their desires, they want you to go away from the straight path. It's in Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 27. They want you to go away from the straight path. So he says there are people who follow their desires. يُرِيدُونَ مِنْ غَيْرِهِمْ أَنْ يَمِيلُوا إِلَى الشَّهْوَاتِ مَيْلًا عَظِيمًا مِثْلُ مَا مَالُهُمْ إِلَيْهَا. So he says there are people who are not on the straight path. They don't have knowledge. And, for example, possibly they don't have knowledge and they're doing things. They're doing actions without knowledge. Or they have knowledge and they're not implementing what they want you to do, or they're just following their desires. And what they want from the other people, other than themselves, as Allah says in the ayah, they want you to also follow your desires. Why? They don't want to be the only one. They don't want to be the Lone Ranger on disobedience when it comes to disobeying Allah, the eyeball, right? They don't want to be the eyeball disobeying Allah, so they, as Allah said, they invite people to also disobey Allah, to also follow their desires. He says, بِحَيْثُ لَا يَبْقَى ذَلِكَ مُنْحَصِرًا فِيهِمْ فَقَطْ. So to the point that they are not the only ones that are considered to be following their desires. So they invite and encourage others, which is a whole issue of, or point about good companionship, having good people around you, and having people that are stronger than you, that you see to be stronger than you, that you can benefit from and they can benefit from you, and not restricting ourselves to emotional ties, which may not be the best ties all the time, right? Sometimes the fact that we know people for a long time doesn't mean that they're the best people for us to be around on a daily basis, right? It doesn't mean we don't love them. It doesn't mean that, we don't want good for them, but it may not be the best situation for our iman. It might not be the best thing for my deen to keep fulan around me. For us to hang out every day, not now. This might not be the time for that for my Islam, right? Doesn't mean that you don't love the brother or you don't love the sister or the sisters, but safeguarding a person's own deen, that decisions have to be made. And generally, a lot of times they understand. They understand. They'll say, what? Oh, he deening. He ain't doing that right now. We know the talk. All right? He's not into that right now. He's deening. He's going hard. So, companionship is big. The Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he spoke about that in the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the different companions and the people who are some benefit. But, as it says here in Surah An-Nisa, that they want you to also leave the straight path. We got to be careful. We can't act like this stuff doesn't exist. That sometimes we know people and we love them, but we know if we keep them around us, we may fall into something haram. Because they are following, they're on something else. And as we said, we're not on the same page. We're not into the same things. We're not doing the same things. I'm in one place, he's in another place. We can't hang like that. We can't roll like that. We got to know when to say that's enough. Which is a whole issue in itself. It doesn't mean that you can't advise people. It doesn't mean that you can't call people to the khair. But we're talking about a daily, everyday, in and out relationship with a person who may, honestly, it may harm your Islam by taking them on like that. By being around them every day, it may be more harmful to your deen. Even though the intent initially may be, I'm gonna try to help them out. Right? It's my man, we go back. I'm gonna try to help them out, but the situation doesn't always allow that. Sometimes, the situation is far gone. It's not really a light situation. It's gonna need a little more than a little companionship. Sometimes, as they say, hard head, right, makes us soft. So sometimes people have to go through things which you can't risk yourself. You can't risk yourself at that point because he or she has to go through something. So you put yourself on the line and you got a whole lot to lose and they may not have anything to lose, right? So companionship is a whole nother issue. We can't be shy. We can't be shy to say, you know, I'm not into that, and you out of pocket. You need to fear Allah. I love you, but you're dead wrong, sis. We can't be shy to say that. Because why? They're not shy to disobey Allah in front of you. Right? They're not shy to openly sin and invite you to it. Right? So why are we shy to tell them to fear Allah? And to tell them they need to slow down, and to tell them and to advise them out of love, not step on them. Out of love. Like, you know, you going way, you speed, you way too fast. You out of how you going, right? Out of love. And if we do it right, then they're gonna know. If we do it right, if we talk to people like, you know, like we know how to talk to people if we really want to get something from them. We don't scream to people when we want something from them. We talk real nice and we smile. All the things that we need to do in order to get it from them, we try to do it. Like, if we trying to get somebody to leave off disobedience and to come back to the straight path, we trying to get something from them, which is submission to Allah and His Messenger. Right? We just want to be a reminder for them to submit to Allah and His Messenger. So how you going to go to them and scream at them? Right? And the situation doesn't call for screaming. The situation might not call for screaming or anger or aggression at that point, which is hikmah, to know when to be aggressive, when to be rough, and when to be gentle. That's from hikmah, from wisdom, that every situation, we can't be gentle. Can't be soft in every situation. Sometimes you got to put the pressure on a little bit, right? In every situation, we can't put the pressure on. Sometimes it takes for more gentleness than roughness. So to know when to do that and when not to do it is a judgment call that a lot of times we do without even thinking about. It's a judgment call, but we got to be paying attention for that if we want good for our brothers and sisters. He says, لهذا يقول عثمان بن عفان رضي الله عنه ودد الزانية لو زنت النساء جميعا. That Uthman رضي الله عنه, he said that the zania, the woman who fornicates, she would hope that all of the women fornicated. The fornicating woman would hope that all of the women fornicated. Why? لأن من يقع في حبال الشهوات يتلوث لا يريد أن يكون وحيدا في مجتمعه فريدا في قومه. The person who is disobeying Allah like that, they don't want to be the only one known amongst the people to do that. So they would prefer that more people do it so that they don't stand out. So that they're not the sore thumb. They don't want to stand out with their disobedience. So they will hope that everybody else, all of the other people, will also fall into that sin and be on the same path. We're going to stop there, inshallah. Any questions? This chapter has a lot more in it. Huh? Yeah, I'm going to stop here. On Friday, the Friday's class, this Friday, there's going to be a new class starting. The Seerah, the biography of the Prophet ﷺ. This Friday after Maghrib. Mufti's going to be doing the class. Mufti's going to be doing the Seerah class this Friday after Maghrib, but it won't be every Friday. It'll be the first Friday of every month. The first Friday of every month will be the Seerah, the biography, the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Starting this Friday though. So the other class, inshallah, will be on those off Fridays. So it'll be like 3, and then the C of the class. Inshallah ta'ala. Any questions?
That's what the Kitab al-Tahara.
Huh?
It'll still be the Kitab al-Tahara.
On Friday? Inshallah.
That's what it was.
That's what it was, right?
Yeah, then we switched to Id-Aha. We explained
Oh,
that for the last
10,
one.
yeah. Inshallah, we'll keep Kitab al-Tahar from Umdat al-Ahkam. Inshallah. خلاص وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.